I'm Dr Chris Eggett. I'm a reader in healthcare science education and I'm a cardiac physiologist, a cardiac scientist. So I also work for part of the time in the hospital as a cardiac scientist, which means that I help doctors and other clinicians to investigate patients' hearts. Well, when I left school a long time ago, I was looking for what to do next, and I saw a job advertised in the local newspaper to train to become what was called a physiological measurements technician. And I didn't have any idea what a physiological measurements technician was, but I applied for the job, and I was surprised to find that I was appointed, and I learned then what physiological measurements technicians did. And basically, they worked in different departments in hospitals, testing different aspects of physiology: the heart, the lungs, the brain, the ears, and that's what I did for a couple of years. At the end of that, I worked for a short time in an audiology department, doing patient hearing tests, and then I moved from audiology into cardiology and started doing heart tests on patients. And those sort of heart tests involved electrocardiograms, recordings of the electrical activity of the heart, working with patients with pacemakers and learning how to program pacemakers, and also carrying out heart scans using ultrasound to take pictures of people's hearts and assess the heart's size and the heart's function. So that's how it all started. I then left the job for a while, went and did a degree, moved on and did a PhD, then did some research, and then eventually made it back into the hospitals and worked between hospitals and universities, doing some work in cardiac testing and also in teaching and training within the university. Well, I think I'd have to say the heart, but I also spent quite a bit of time working in neuroscience as well. So I've got a particular interest in the relationship between the heart and the brain, and it's not a very well understood area, neurocardiology. In fact, it's a relatively new and developing aspect of science, and so my real interests are in watching what's happening in the field of neurocardiology research. So one thing that we've spent quite a bit of time looking at in Newcastle is looking at a relatively novel technique for assessing how well the heart functions by measuring cardiac output using non-invasive techniques. We can make some measurements using cardiac ultrasound, and we've been comparing the readings that we get using this technique with a new instrument that makes assessment of the cardiac output by measuring electrical changes in the chest. Physiology is basically the study of the normal function of the human body, if we're talking about human physiology. I think having an understanding of how we as humans function is important. It provides insight into normal function, but also into abnormal function. All sorts of benefits to that in terms of things that you might do as a career. You could, move into health-related careers. You might choose to go on and study postgraduate medicine, for example, or you could just apply some of the basic principles of investigating and experimenting in all sorts of other areas of life too. Well, it's hard to find time outside of work, but one thing I do that does link into physiology is I'm a keen runner, long distance runner, and I'm very interested in the physiology of ultra distance running.